You're not gonna go there, are you?
Oh, yes, I am.
Hey, it's Karel, and welcome to Life in Segments, episode 307. That's right, we're halfway through our third season. Thanks to y'all. I cannot be more grateful from my heart. We're here at Park Howard, my home in beautiful Long Beach, California, in front of my map, on my steamer trunk, and that's because, child, nothing could be more civil than having tea. I love having tea. And that's why we started a segment on my show called HiTea. This is where we sit and either I'll rant and tell you something, or a guest will join me for tea. Well, thanks to the people at Lennox for supplying the wonderful tea sets, we're able to have high tea in style. So let's go check in with who we had tea with this week as we give you the tea in high tea. How many times can I say tea? What's the tea? You know that's me. Remember Lady T, Square Biz? Oh yes, I'm talking Square Biz to you, baby. I'm talking love, that is. Hey, welcome to Karel Life in Segments High Tea. This is where I sit down and have tea with people that I find interesting, people I love, or just anybody I can find on the streets, child. Now today, we are drinking out of our new Lennox, because Lennox became a sponsor and they sent me crazy amounts of Lennox. And so this is a presidential pattern. In another segment, we're going to talk about tea patterns of the White House. And there's a really interesting history. So, before we do that, I want to give you some of the basics of tea. The do's, the don'ts, where it came from, where it's going, and how it's probably one of the most political beverages in the world, and yet you think it's just something that comes in a bag. Well, America, you are all wrong about tea, and we are now here to school you about it. I have two local experts from my hood, and we're going to sit here and we're going to have some delicious tea and talk about the history of tea. First, we have Babette Shah, correct? Shah?
Bianca.
Bianca Shah. I want to name you Babette. That's my agent's name. I hate my agent. No, I don't say that. Bianca Shah. I don't hate my agent. Really, I don't. Really, I don't. And you are with International Tea.
Yes, International Tea.
And I came upon you because you were involved in a tea festival, and your company is just a great tea leader. You're in Commerce, correct?
Yes.
Commerce, over in Cerritos, which is another neighboring city to Long Beach. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Royce van Twest.
And I couldn't say his last name, that's why I told him to introduce himself, okay? We'll just call him Royce. And you're with...
I'm the Vice President of Q-Trade Teas and Herbs, which is situated in Cerritos.
Now, before you're guessing, they don't run tea shops, honey. These people are the people that you get your tea from, you get your tea fixins from. They're the ones that find out what sort of go and taste the teas and then bring them to you. We have some of the QT teas out there. We're going to be talking about them. Before we start, though, let's pour some tea. And let's first talk about some of the myths about tea as we started. Oh. First of all, should you boil water for tea?
Yes, and the water that you boil should be fresh water.
That's Ember, as you know. She always does that right when we start filming because she's that way. Well, what about, I learned that never let it quite boil, like 205 degrees?
Yes, maybe 205 to 210, but the water should not have been boiled before.
Virgin water is what you're saying. How do I know if my water's been boiled? It comes out of the tap. How do I know? Great, now I gotta buy distilled or something. Should you use distilled water for tea? Is it better? Or does it matter?
No, it doesn't.
I didn't think it mattered. Do you all take cream?
Yes.
This is a black tea. Black teas hold up to that sort of thing. We're not being racist. Black tea matters. I told you, or maybe you weren't here. I get in trouble. Here we go.
Yeah, I'll have a little.
I was mothering the pot, but you're out of the way. And I use Bailey's because I'm a lush. Because the first time I had tea, as I told you, with the Queen Mum, she put gin into her tea. And I thought, what is she doing? So, a little splash of Bailey's there for you. Would you like some?
A little bit.
From my favorite place
Thank
in
you.
Ireland. I've actually been to where this is made.
Oh, very nice.
Absolutely. Now, first, let's talk a little about what your businesses do, because the economics of tea is what most interests me. This has been a beverage that has been so important historically to so many countries, to so many lives, and yet we don't really know that. First of all, what got you both interested in it? You're at very ends of the spectrum here. You're two very different people. You're a millennial almost. How old are you? You're a
22.
millennial? Oh, you're a millennial.
I'm a millennial.
It's all your fault. And you're not 22.
No, I'm not.
So first of all, how did you develop a love of tea?
Well, from the time I left college, I have been in tea, and that's all I have done all my life.
Really?
Yes, I've been
Why?
in tea.
When I'm in college, I'm thinking I want to be, well, it wasn't Mariah Carey at the time, it was Madonna or Barbara Streisand. I'm old, but I wasn't thinking about tea. Why were you so...
As I left college, I got onto a tea estate, and I grew tea, and that was how it started. So I was born and bred in Sri Lanka.
Oh, like much of our tea.
So I grew tea, and as they call them, we were tea planters. And thank you.
You're welcome.
And from there, managed tea gardens, and ended up my career in Sri Lanka managing 22 estates for the James Finlay Tea Company.
Wow, so this has really been your life. You've just
That's
been
right.
in tea. Now, Bianca, you're just starting life. So why? Why tea?
Well, I actually grew up in tea. So my dad actually was the one who...
I grew up in the hood. I don't know what's tea.
well, I grew up drinking tea. Drinking a lot
Really?
of tea.
I didn't drink it
yes.
till I was 40.
Really?
Till I was 40 years old. My friends would order iced tea. I'd be like, you know. And then I had tea with the Queen Mum in London, unexpectedly. And every day after that, I've had tea, and that
That's
was in
amazing.
1999.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
were always around it.
Always around it. My dad grew up in South India in tea plantations, so he kind of had a love for tea, which he kind of passed down to me. So I recently came in to take over his business after his passing earlier this year. So
Sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so I've always grown up in tea. I've loved tea ever since I was little, and doing tastings with him. And
Now
so.
let's start with something that most people don't know. Over here we have marvelous bags, and if you want to reach one of your bags, that's your pearl tea there, jasmine pearls. This is white tea. Most of you don't realize this. All tea is the same plant, correct?
Yes.
That's right.
Correct. And
Camellia-
what is not a tea?
Camellia sinensis.
What is it named?
Camellia sinensis.
Camellia, it sounds like a camille, doesn't it? Camellia. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo was an old-time actress. She was very glamorous. Anyway, so it's all the same plant.
That's right.
So how do we have so many different teas?
It's all from the same plant. It's just how it's treated and manufactured. It's harvested from the...
So it's nurture, not nature, is what you're saying. Now, 4,000 years ago, it became a popular drink in China. Now, there's
That's
the
right.
myth of the emperor and the tea leaf that fell into his...
That's
and
right.
He said it has healing powers. Amazingly, in America, it is the #1 source of flavonoids in our country. Flavonoids help you get free radicals out of the blood. Tea is actually the #1 source of flavonoids in the American diet. Did you know that?
You did.
Oh,
Yeah.
I knew they were going to know everything that I know, but it's kind of fun. So tea is all the same plant. If someone tells you I'm having chamomile tea or I'm having something other than that, it's not tea, right?
not
Let's
tea.
just be
No.
very clear. It makes me angry when you do that. Would you like some chamomile tea? No, I would like some tea. So let's talk about the history. Chinese discovered it, didn't share it. They kept it for a while, right?
That's right.
Yes.
And at a
that's
time,
correct.
it was currency, correct? It was used as money.
Yes.
That and the roots they established were very important to China, correct?
Yes.
And after that, when they sort of opened it up, it really became a huge part of the world's economy, did it not?
Yes.
And then, when it was finally introduced, we think of tea, we think Britain, but tea predates British consumption. Why is it always until white people find something they think it's not found? You know? It's like America. Look, I discovered it. What about us? It's like, said
right,
the Indians or the Native Americans. Or I'm old. I still say tranny. What do I know? It's like I'm old. But it was such an important part. In America, we think of our Boston Tea Party. We think of the tea tax. But even that did shape our history.
It did.
So that beverage was really a part of our history.
That's right.
So since that beverage was a part of our history, and since Europeans do love tea, and since it was such a huge deal, why can't you get a good cup of tea in America? Why do we have crap tea in America? Anybody? I'll take out anybody.
Well, I think going back to the Boston Tea Party.
Do we really just hate tea because of the Boston Tea Party?
Well, kind of going back to that, I think
Get over it!
it shaped sort of America's relationship with Britain. And then when we sort of boycotted tea and British goods back in the 1700s, that kind of opened up, like, okay, we want to create a new culture, a different culture, away from what the British want. And so that's
So they
how...
went with the barbaric coffee bean?
That's exactly right.
It came from the barbaric regions. You know where coffee came from. It came from barbarians, quite frankly. It's a barbaric drink. Sorry for all you coffee drinkers. Drink pu'er. It's just like coffee. But tea. Right, Ember? That's right. Now, though, and we're going to talk about this more a little bit later, it's becoming a big economic power in the United States.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
But let's go back a little bit more. We were mentioning India. When someone sees the word Assam, that means the tea's from India, right? It's
That's
a brand
right.
from
Yes.
India.
That's right.
And that happened because the Brits didn't want to pay the Chinese, right? And they owned India, basically, and said, we'll just grow tea there, correct?
That's right. And from there they moved on to Ceylon, or now called Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. So it spread from India to Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
We get a lot of our tea nowadays from Sri Lanka, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And so how big is it to Sri Lanka's economy?
Very big.
Very big.
Sri Lanka is a little island with just over 20 million people. And the tea industry in Sri Lanka is so big that about 1.5 to 2 million people are either directly or indirectly involved in the tea industry.
Now, there's a lot of myths about the perfect cup of tea. I was told by the Queen Mum of England before she passed away, the perfect cup of tea is tea the way you like it. Because I asked, do I put milk in the Earl Grey? Because that's what they served. And I said, do I put milk in Earl Grey? I saw in the Da Vinci Code, you're not supposed to put milk in Earl Grey. And she said, darling, have the tea the way you like the tea. So I put milk in Earl Grey. But is there such a thing as a perfect cup of tea? I mean, how are you supposed to drink tea? Is there a way, or is it just any way you want?
I think it's any way that you want. You know, I think perfect is subjective.
Do Americans, as we're starting to learn, because this is going to be new for us, you know, it's going to learning curve, should they align themselves with companies like yours that produce tea that they like, and that way they can trust that they're getting good leaf? How do they know? Like, I know my drug dealer for pot, and I know I'm going to get good pot when I go to him. You know, the dispensary where I go to, I know they have good product. How do you know if the person or company you're buying from has good product?
Where we are concerned at Q-Trade, we have over 150 years of tea experience in our senior staff. The owner, Manik Jayakumar, has about 55 years. I have almost 50, and with the rest of the staff, we have over 150 years of experience. We buy all our product from origin. We visit the gardens personally, select our teas, and get them made to suit us. And we bring in teas that we require and what our customers like. So we